Alright, welcome back to the Scimax channel. Today I want to talk about how we use edit marks in org mode. And edit marks is maybe the third or fourth generation of ideas that I've been working on for being able to make highlights in an org buffer. So let's just put in a paragraph here. Let's say I wanted to mark this as a typo. One way I could do this is I just open the edit mark menu and press T, and it adds this little syntax around it that marks it as a typo. And I find that kind of convenient when I'm communicating with people that I'm writing with, for example. Or I might want to add a comment here, and so I might say, let's say add some references. And this shows up in orange, and it has this little indicator down here. Or if I want to indicate that we should delete this this sentence, then we press get into my Hydra menu and mark it to be deleted. And if I want to make sure it's really clear what we're inserting, I would use this. So these are persistent. You can see that I'm adding the little text in here, and they're like links in org mode, but they're quite different. So these are not org elements. These are just extra syntax that I add into this. Now, one thing that's nice about these is that they are exportable. So if I turn this into HTML, for example, it should be, but I see that it's not here. Let's try a PDF. Where is that coming up? Yeah, so the PDF shows that this does get marked up. We see the comment here that's added up here. The typo is labeled. Things that are deleted are underlined in red. Things that are added are underlined in blue. And now you can see it. That gives us a way of transforming these from one format to another, which I find really helpful when I am writing a paper, because I get this to-do list of things that are up here. Alright, so by itself this is just adding some color, but we can also look at a list of all of them. So I can see over here all of these, and if I click on one or press enter, it jumps directly to it. And if I have some key bindings that are set on here, so you can have a menu that will open different things. So here we have a typo, so it says type 4 to fix this. If you press 4, it looks like something's not set up in spell check correctly. Always figures when you do something live. In theory, that would should have given me a little menu to spell check it, but now I see I have something to fix. Now this is also something that is kind of like track changes. So in here I can accept, reject, clear, or delete, or go to the next and previous. So if I just click accept here, then it would actually delete that like it would in Word. And if I'm on this and press Control N, then it jumps to the next one and previous. Let's see. We can jump to the previous one as well. So previous is Control P, like that. So we can navigate around and do interesting kinds of things. All right, so that's not all of the features of edit marks. Originally, I created it for being able to mark up comments, typos, things like this. If you look in this menu, there's also some highlighting. So here we can do green. Looks like I defined green twice. This should be blue. So I could highlight some text here and say HB, and it gets highlighted in blue. And Down here you see these local variables that get set so that SEM mode is on. So when we open and close this, these will get converted back into this syntax. There's a couple of other things that I find interesting. So I thought it would be interesting if we could have an audio edit mark. So if I press U here, then it starts recording, and it records everything I say, and it's saving it right now. And then when I'm done, I just press Q, and it will introduce this audio hyperlink. Now here we can actually play this, and let's see what it sounds like. Then it starts recording, and it records everything I say, and it's saving it right now. And then when I'm done, I just press Q. So that's an easy way if you're needing to capture some thoughts. This got saved in this MP3 file that's saved right here in this directory. So there's this is the one that I just did. This one is something I did earlier. And so that's also kind of helpful. And you can see this edit mark has some metadata in it if you want. It has a file and a name. We can also have a let's see what else is in here. We can put in a file. So if I press file, then it inserts the edit mark for it, and probably that one didn't do quite what I thought it would. Here we have a whole path, and that way this would in theory be a file link. So that one isn't quite right, so let's go check out the actual code. So the edit marks are written in this org file that's in Scimax, and it's written in a literate programming kind of form. So we use this org babel load file that tangles all of the Emacs code out and then loads it. So here are a couple of examples. These are the insertions. It fully supports multiple lines, and we have deletions. Here are some comments. We have a reply, a task, different kinds of typos. Here are the highlights that I showed you, blue, green, yellow, and pink. We have a file link. And so here, if you press, it looks like super down will open. So let's try that. That opens that to the location that it was saved. And so that's this file in this project Scimax, and it's at line 13, column 0. So we have lots of metadata here to tell you which scimax-editmarks.org that it's in a project. And if you use super to the right, it will open it in a new window, and then it's over here. I showed you the audio, so this relies on this open source socks program, and I also have been playing around with making a contact. So here I can look at, let's see what happens with this one. Doesn't seem like it has a keymap assigned to it, but you might want to add one so that it would be easy to say email this person, or do some other information with them. So what else could we do with this? This library knows about all of these edit marks, and so in my orgdb project, we have a way to search for them. So let's see what comes out. Org db edit marks, and these now are all the edit marks that I have put in different files somewhere. So I can search for comments, I can search for things that I said, etc. And each of these would be something that I can jump to. So if I press enter on this, it will jump. In this case, it's detecting this in a code block. But we can search for audios, or now we obviously can't search inside the audio without adding some kind of transcription. to get searchable text, but it's pretty interesting that you can search for these at all, in my mind. All right, so let's see. Maybe I'll take a few minutes and walk through what kinds of things are in here. I guess now that we have some text, we'll do one more thing, and that is there's sort of a pseudo toggle track changes. So if I turn it on and I start adding text like this, then it will automatically be inserted, and if I come over here and delete this, then it will automatically be marked as a minus, as a deletion. So it's kind of like track changes in Word. It's not quite as good. That has turned out to be a very, very difficult problem to work out. And so it just kind of works. I don't use it a lot. But some other things I see here, we can jump to an edit mark or jump to a visible one. So let's see what happens if I press Q. Then I get a list. Let's jump to this one. And if we press V, then we get this kind of AV completion where you just press the letter that corresponds to the one you want. So if I want this, then we would click on H. So let's do that again. And that's an easy way to jump around to the different ones. Okay, so that's what we had kind of put in here. You can accept or reject or clear or delete edit marks. You can navigate next and previous. We can list them. Similar to what you see in Word, you can delete, accept all, reject all, clear all, or delete all, and we can jump to different marks. And then in general, there is a key map. So you can use your right mouse button, or I like super a lot because it maps onto the left-hand command button on my Mac keyboard. You can go to the beginning or the end of an edit mark, or the next or the previous one, like this. All right, this is something I thought would be useful, but has kind of turned out not to be, so I haven't commented out. And then this is this way we define edit marks. So it's kind of, it's a little bit inspired by the org links. We have a plist that says what are the open and close markers, the face that tells it how it's going to look on the marker and on the body. We can define a key map per edit mark, and a tooltip. Here, most of these are just plain strings, but they don't have to be. They could be functions too. And then we have a function that gets run for accepting or rejecting, and a function that gets run for exporting. So each edit mark can have its own export function. We'll look at a few of those later. And then if it doesn't have one, then a default is run. So these are just all different, basically different open and close. For comments, replies, typos, these are the highlights. This is the audio, and this is the file. And those are the main ones that have been created. You can make a new one anytime you want, just by adding to this this variable. So we just have to add to scimax-editmarks this definition here. All right, so let's see what comes next in here. This is code for reading when you put metadata in there. So it parses this into a plist, and that's how we can have metadata in there. These are some functions for the audio map. So I have a special key map for being able to open and listen to the audio. Here's how we play it. It just starts a process that runs the file through the SOX player. And here we have a fancy tooltip. So it's a function, but it is actually just returning a string, so not actually that fancy. And then here's a function that is responsible for inserting the audio link. So it just calculates a file name, starts a record process, and then when you press quit, we'll insert the edit mark that we're interested in. And so that actually happens inside here when you press Q. So pressing Q is running this function that saves it and then inserts the audio link down here. Then file edit marks, kind of similar idea. We have actually some ways to save links. So in org mode, you can save a link to it. We can insert a file link. I think here it looks like you should store a link to a file and then insert it. So let's try that. SEM store file edit mark. SEM store file edit mark. I see. And then over here, this is where we would want to be able to. It looks like it should have done that, but it doesn't look like it did. Another probable bug. All right. I could, of course, do this as an org mode heading with a task to do, but this is, you can put this in line anywhere you want, and then later we can just search for tasks. Here's the first place where we have an export function. So all the export functions work on an edit mark at point, and what you do is get the bounds of the edit mark so you know where the start and the end is, and then we get the content bounds, which is the contents of your edit mark, and then we can get the plist that is associated with any properties, and then much like an org mode export, you choose the backend, and then we just replace. What you have to do is replace the edit mark with the backend text that you want, and so here we just replace the whole edit mark with this LaTeX code, and this is done in a pre-processing step. So we replace the edit mark with the LaTeX that we want and then export it to LaTeX. That's the general strategy. And if you wanted this to work for HTML, we would have to have another condition for HTML, a lot like the way you would do it for org mode. Now, it could be possible to have this always output org mode code, and sometimes that would happen. So for a link, for example, it would be fine to do that. But later you'll see that we embed colors in them, and those are specific to LaTeX or HTML. So here's an example for the insert link that in LaTeX we have to define these colors like this with the underline, and in HTML we have to define it like this. And there isn't a single way to have one org syntax that works for both HTML and LaTeX that I know of for doing colors like this. So here we make them blue. And then similar for red for delete, and comments turn out to be orange. Tasks are kind of green. And then there's this default exporter for everything else. So the default exporter tries to be kind of fancy. And it looks at the colors of the faces and then tries to make it look like that. So we try to get the face of the different things and then try to define colors. This is maybe just it's like the best idea I could come up with, since you can make arbitrary edit marks. And this does end up putting somewhere in here the kind of edit mark it is. And so if we, let's highlight this one and make it green. If we look at how does this export in a buffer, what you see is this text right here, green highlight colon RISUS. So this is because we didn't define a highlighting function for this. And so that's what when I finish going through this, we'll see what it takes to change that. All right, the colors in here all come about from fontlock. So fontlock is used with some regular expressions to search through for the edit marks and then change their faces. So we have a face here for the opening marker, or for the overall marker we have these properties get set. For the opening marker we set the open face, then we have the content, and we have a close marker, and sometimes it looks like I commented out what happens to the author. This one's kind of tricky because it's an optional group, and when I wrote this, I wasn't sure how to set that. All right, so we can create your own edit marks. There's a function for doing that. So this is for adding or updating an edit mark, and hopefully this is actually what we're going to use to change the way the green highlight is exported. So let's just do it now that we're here. Sem set edit mark parameters, and actually let's look up here. Sem-editmarks. All right, so this is what we have set up here, and what we see is not in here is an export function. So I think we can do this green highlight and then export, and then we'll give it a lambda. I'm going to ignore the back end, and let's try out just it worked for now. All right, so now there is an export option here, and now if I come up here, we should see that. All right, I'm not sure what just happened there. Let's try this again. Oh, I see. Let's go back up to an export. I didn't do the right thing. So what we need to do is set the buffer string to the within the bounds to something that we want. All right, so I'm going to edit this here. So we need to have a let statement up here. And then I like CL setf. All right, so setf is the kind of generalized way of setting a place. It's kind of a fancy idea in Lisp. So basically, we just get the buffer substring that is in here, and then we can directly set this into this new value. So let's see, does that work? No. What is it looking at? List of to-dos. It worked A. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. All right, so here we talked about font lock. We were working on creating our own edit marks and trying to update that. Let's see if we set this back to nil. Do we get what we had before? All right, so we do. Oh, right. Of course. Why am I having trouble this morning? All right, so it is working because we did get it to replace with it worked. So that's good. So all we have to do is super early in the morning, I guess, for my brain, is to come back up here to the default and put this together. So we're going to set f this, and let's see, this is going to be what we want. And let's just check out what is here and get rid of it worked. So we're going to set up the buffer string. We're going to concat this long format statement, which looks like it is just, looks like I need to copy all of these things up here. So this is going to get the bounds, the contents, the foreground color, the background color, convert them to RGB and hex, which is probably used more for the, it looks like it's used in the color definitions. When we have a background color, we set it. Otherwise, we're going to set the buffer string to concat these two things together. So that is going to take this string, which it doesn't look like we need to change anything in because it's just a color definition. And then we're going to apply that to each element of the string. So that is putting latex around the strings, and then we're just splitting the buffer substring, no properties, on the content. And then finally putting the closing parentheses in there. So where does the type come from? Oh, I see. Get text property point SEM type is right here. So this is the last element. So we're just going to get rid of this, and then get rid of this. Okay. So in theory, then this should void variable color. All right. So we have a foreground color. This is a let star. All right. So another subtle point, let and let star. So we use foreground color inside the arguments. And one more time. Void variable bounds. All right. Where does this end? Okay, so then I see. So we need to put all of that in there. And one more time. Wrong integer type. All right, so that was just some weird bounds thing. So now we have define a color, dark olive, and then here's our string, And so here, if we now export this to a PDF, let's see, where is it? Oh, did we get an error? All right, let's try again. All right, what is this? Good times trying to do things in real time while trying to get it to work. It wasn't produced. Maybe we have some error in the LaTeX. Well, we can try this the old-fashioned way. We'll make a tex file. No. L. Now let's check out eShell. Shell escape editmarks. Okay, option clash. Oh, I see. We've got maybe we've got some extra LaTeX code that isn't getting done correctly. All right. So this is the problem here. We have this extra syntax that didn't get taken out, and this isn't right. All right, so let's work out what's happening. All right, so in here is probably where we're running awry. Maybe it is just right here. Did that make it better? A little too fast on copying and pasting. Oh, you know, it's these results, I bet. All right, so something in here, probably this code, these extra LaTeX was causing this particular problem. And so if you look here, then It's still not quite right. It says latex colon. That's because somewhere in here I didn't get rid of enough things. Like maybe right here. Trickier than it seems. So we have our color. I still have this in here. Width, so this is splitting the buffer substring, on the contents. You know, I sort of think I've been forgetting to actually run these. Alright, so we're getting our defined color. There's the color, RGB. There's the 3 RGBs. Then this is a color box with dark green olive, par box, text width. And so that's this format string. And then here we are, oh, I see. We're getting nested at latex here. I wonder if we put this here. All right, that looks like it might work. Nope. File ended. All right, so that means we're probably missing something. Probably missing one more thing here. Okay, so that's certainly wasn't a beautiful live performance, but you can see in here that we now no longer have the green highlight colon. It's a little unclear why this is so long in here. If we let's look at what actually got made in here. So it looks like it's because we have text width here, and that text width is not correct. It probably needs to be something else. Let's see what happens if I just get rid of it. Okay, so that's also not quite right. So we have to calculate something here, and off the top of my head, I'm not real positive what that is. We could try a number. Let's see, just for fun. Let's try 8. So the idea here is if 8 works, then we'll just replace it with the length. And it's like almost worked. Latex text width. All right, so I'm trying to find the width of a par box. What should it be? width is usually some in inches or something like that, or I guess if you say inches, maybe we'll put, this is obviously not a general solution, but it's also only an issue for that. So we need some way in to calculate what this value is, and I think in the interest of not prolonging watching me live code and work out these things, probably it would be better to go back and like rewrite this whole section with a better way of doing string formatting that was much more readable in using these. All right, let me see if there's any other things I wanted to kind of talk about. You can find scimax-editmarks in the Scimax repo and see what kinds of things are done in here. It's all plain text. And here here's an example of how I connect to my my org-db to find contacts or documents that are related. So one reason I wanted to have these edit marks here in the first place was to join them to other things. So here you could use this to connect to a database and then find documents, other documents that contain an edit mark in it. Let's see, I guess last points, there is this minor mode, SEM mode, that just turns on the font lock that makes this all work. And it looks like there is also under Scimax a whole edit marks menu that you can go to in case you don't remember any of these key bindings. These are just ways, I use text properties a lot in this code to get properties like where the content bounds are, where the edit mark bounds are. These are all based on different properties, and that means like over here, if you describe text properties, you'll see that we have, it is an SEM, what kind of, that it is an edit mark, and that this one is a audio type. And then we have some convenient things for inserting edit marks. So there's a whole function here about inserting them in general, and then I use a hydra that is defined a little bit lower for making it simple. So here we have all of our functions for deleting edit marks, for clearing all of them, accepting them, and the whole track change code is at the end. You can see it's worth looking at here. So we have another minor mode for tracking changes that uses the before change and after change functions, and so this has been very difficult to to work out to get all of the corner cases correct on what an insertion and deletion looks like. And maybe two last things that are interesting is looking at diffs. So let's look at this one, SEM wdiff get. So this is going to make a, it's going to check the Git repo, and I can choose a different commit here. Let's just take this last one, and it will generate a wdiff get file. And I guess we should put SEM mode on. I just turned it off. And if we scroll through here, you can see that there are places where things have been changed. That was a place I changed a space. This one maybe isn't super helpful because I haven't changed too many things while we're working on here. But this is helpful if you want to easily see differences from version control. And then Here is something that is looking at just what's saved on the disk. So let's try that one. WSEM wdiff buffer with file. So this one gives you what's different between the current buffer and what's saved on disk, assuming you haven't saved it. So here's what I just wrote in here. I inserted that. All right, so those are just things that are kind of helpful, I think, in thinking about what can you do with edit marks. And I guess I'll finish up and say this is, like I said, the third or fourth generation of this idea. And I'm not positive it's the final version, because a couple of limitations of this, mostly in the way I do the edit mark recognition, is you cannot nest edit marks. And so it's not currently possible to do that, and making that possible would require like a recursive parser that could step into the edit marks, and that's just out of my bounds right now. But it's still really nice for things that look like this, where you can just have simple markups, simple audios. I played around with making a video for this. It turned out to be too difficult to get QuickTime to like reliably launch and then focus where you want, and then there wasn't an easy way to just make it quit and insert the link after you made the video. But that's still kind of on my list of things to figure out, because it would be super nice if you could just record a video of something on your screen or from your camera and have a link to it right in your org file. And yeah, so that's sort of where things are with the edit marks. I really like the way this works. I do wish that I could nest them sometimes, but at the moment that's not on my to-do list. Or it's on my to-do list, it's just far down from other things. All right, so I think I'm going to call it a day. This took way longer than I thought. So if you're sticking around, thanks for watching, and hope you get to use editmark somehow. And I will see you next time.